It has been an interesting development because probably the first requirement that I wrote is more than 30 years ago when I was still a child. And I worked in industries organizations where the process is very document and textual requirements heavy, right? So one takes great care of how to write the requirement. I remember back then, 30 years ago, requirements boilerplates and how you should formulate them and so on. And I think there we have made great advances with natural language processing to kind of analyze and help to write good textual requirements. But for me, in particular, coming from the let's say more from the behavior side, I think there's the textual part, but there's a whole other ecosystem around that, right? So one is what I've seen recently also in the aerospace industry is that, okay, there's the textual part of the requirement, but there is a lot of other attributes as well, right? So there's not only the text, no, there's like the VNV method, when I want to do my VNV, there's like a whole bunch. I remember one of the last projects I worked on was like 20 other attributes apart from the text, right? And 2 weeks ago, I was actually at a conference of the German chapter of INCOSE, and of course, there were also presentations about requirements. And one presentation showed an example from the AUTOSAR standard about describing the behavior of a simple device, which was 1 page of shell statements, right? When there is an event, then the device shall move from state X into state Y and so on. And it's impossible to understand what's going on there. I mean, it's even more difficult to understand how to verify. I mean, how would you verify that, right? So coming from the model-based side, I could this 1 page of shell statements just put into like 4 states on the state machine diagram, right? And I could simulate it, and I could have VNV already for that requirement, and actually would help me to understand what better understand what the requirement is. So I think there's these 2 aspects. So there has been traditionally and still, unfortunately, in my opinion, a lot of focus on the text, right? But I think there's a lot of other things that have to be considered, like all these other attributes and how it fits into downstream into VNV. But with a model-based approach, I can often very simply describe this very complicated prose in a simple diagram, right? And actually, more than a diagram, it can be in a model that I can execute, validate, verify, run, whatever, right? So for me, like writing 1-page descriptions of a behavior is just insanity. It should be just a model. And